at the bottom of a very pretty valley, there's a magical place called Summerton Mill. And when the water wheel turns at Summerton Mill, a little bit of magic takes place. And, for a little while, everything goes back to how it used to be.
Oh, it's a lovely morning,
said Dan as he looked out over Summerton Valley.
Oh dear, it sounds like there might be something wrong with Francoise,
said Dan as he headed off past Mousy Tongue the cat who was lying in the sun.
Morning, Francoise,
said Dan as he looked over the gate. Francoise was sitting down in the field, and she didn't sound very happy.
What's the matter with you, then?
Dan opened the gate. Francoise was trying to stand up, but she seemed to be having a bit of a problem.
Oh, dear. Well, that leg looks a bit wobbly,
said Dan. Morning, Dan, said Dr. Neighbour.
Oh, good morning to you, Dr. Neighbour,
said Dan.
Well, actually, it's not quite as good a morning as I thought it was to begin with. There's something wrong with Francoise,
said Dan as he wobbled Francoise's loose leg.
Morning, Dan,
said Mrs. Neighbour.
Oh, morning, Mrs. Neighbour. Have you let those chickens out yet, Dan? Oh, no, I forgot, Mrs. Neighbour. But Francoise is having a bit of trouble with one of her legs. Oh, they'll be all right for a few minutes. I think I might just let them out. They sound like they're being a bit restless. It's all right. Mrs. Neighbour's coming. So, what seems to be the problem?
asked Mrs. Neighbour.
Well, every time she tries to get up, she's not able to, because her leg's all floppy.
Mrs. Neighbour gently moved Francoise's leg to feel just how floppy it was, and then she thought for a moment.
Oh, I think I can see what the problem is,
said Mrs. Neighbour, and she leant forward and gave one of Francoise's Wingnuts a few turns. Then they stood back as Francoise stood up.
Oh, Mrs. Neighbour, you fixed her,
said Dan.
Just like that,
said Dr. Neighbour.
Not just a pretty face,
said Mrs. Neighbour.
Anyway, we'd better be going, Dan. See you later.
Oh, bye then, Dr. Neighbour. Bye, Mrs. Neighbour. Bye, Dan. And thanks for helping Francoise.
And while Dr. and Mrs. Neighbour headed back up the track towards their pretty cottage, Dan tickled Francoise behind her ear, which was her favourite thing in the whole world. And when Dan and Fluffer got back to Summerton Mill, Mousy Tongue was still lying asleep in the sun. And as the water level drops back down, the big old water wheel slows and eventually stops. And Summerton Mill, still beautiful in its tumble-down state, goes back to being a home just to the wild animals, the birds, and the plants.